Do you feel that society has lost its ability to hold a constructive conversation on social issues of national importance and world value? Well, an unlikely pairing of two Christian ministers have come together in a weekly podcast looking at social issues from different theological points of view. It could sound like a pious argument between clergy, but I think it's much more than that, and it's something that it can be meaningful. Reverend Dr. Michael Jensen and Reverend Powell du Toit attempt to talk about social issues from a Christian perspective. And if nothing else, they demonstrate that there are many shades of grey that must take place in any conversation on any issue. Let's take a listen.
I'm Michael Jensen, and she's... What's your name again?
Hi, I'm Powell du Toit, and this is...
Michael Jensen.
And we have a podcast together.
We do. We disagree a lot, and so what we decided to do was to get a podcast together and to disagree in front of everyone. For instance, the Sydney Diocese has a particular view of women's ministry, which you mightn't hold. That's fine. But here they...
I quite definitely do not hold.
No, I know.
Yes.
But, okay, that was just a guess. And we'd love you to listen to us. And we'd love to join in the conversation on With All Due Respect, which is the name of our podcast.
Because we see this as not just a conversation between us, but hopefully one that we start to have with the community around us.
That's right. See you there.
Welcome, Michael and Megan. Good to have you here. Megan, you and Michael don't always see eye to eye on social issues. How did the podcast come about?
Because of that. So we were friends on Facebook, and we had 2 days running of having arguments together on Facebook. And I was trying to calm it down. So I just threw a one-liner out there saying, look, I think we don't see eye to eye, but we could do a really good podcast together, a la Margaret and David from the movie show. You have to be older to get that.
I do know
reference.
who they are. I do know who they are, unfortunately.
I'm Margaret, by the way, in that.
So I just meant it as a joke, but 2 weeks later, Michael got back to me and said, actually, I think that's a good idea. Would you like to do it? Because I guess, we were arguing, but we both had been trying to be respectful, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think arguing can be a really constructive thing. It's not, ignorance and turning your back on the other person is actually not, or
Michael,
just not
what are you trying to
talking.
achieve? Let me, in a nutshell.
Well, I'm trying to honour Jesus Christ actually by showing how Christians can model what our society found so difficult, and that is to talk about what we disagree about in a constructive way, and where I might actually learn something, and where it actually might go further. It might be a creative disagreement, and to do that in a peaceable way, in a way which models good listening. I think Christians should be excellent at it. And the trouble was, of course, in social media land, we're not very good at it.
Sometimes worse, I think.
We're sometimes
Yeah.
worse.
And let me just say, I don't want to be rude, but the church isn't very good at it either,
No, we're terrible. No, it's a disgrace, actually. I think in this, particularly in this day and age where we've got a fast secularising society, you realise we've got to make friends here. We've got to testify to Jesus. It doesn't mean that we've got to give away our convictions or be someone we're not. In fact, quite the opposite. But we've got to at least come together.
A couple of the themes you've addressed, what have you been...
We've looked at religious freedom. We've looked at social justice.
We talked about beauty.
Well, that was in the middle of the Israel Folau thing, and we actually thought, no, we don't want to talk about that.
Well, probably there was so much being said about it at the time.
Yeah, and I think wasn't really getting anywhere. And we thought, what do people need? They need to think about things that are good and noble and can bring something that brings people together.
We talked about Christian schools, so we've got very different backgrounds when it comes to schooling and what we do with our kids, and that's a very contentious issue amongst Christians.
We did a live cast just before the election about how we do politics as Christians.
Yeah, and then we followed up on that because Christians were, on both sides of the argument when it came to the election. Some were overjoyed, some were dismayed.
And what was the biggest point of difference between you?
One, I guess, is that I'm an ordained woman.
Oh, yes. Tell us more.
So
His crowd struggle with that, don't they?
They do, yeah.
Yes.
And you would sit somewhere different on that.
Yeah, so I work with the Sydney Anglican Diocese. We don't ordain women, and that's one of the most tense issues that I think divides Christians in Australia, in Sydney, and elsewhere. And so it's a shame that we're not actually talking to one another about that. And that doesn't, as I say, I don't think it means you have to give up your convictions necessarily.
I suppose the difficult things is when you've pushed the conversation, you say, even when we push the conversation, we can't find a way out of this that enables us to find in a conversation, when two of you are having a conversation, you find a third alternative over here. That's very difficult on some of those issues, isn't it?
Yes, some of them. I mean, we don't try and resolve everything in our conversation. Sometimes I've had people say, neither of you came anywhere. Like they didn't get somewhere. And I said, well, but life doesn't get somewhere. Conversations, that's how normal conversations happen. That it's and we kind of see what we're doing as a journey, a relationship between us two as well. I mean, we're changing each other.
Look, this is
He doesn't like me saying that.
But you probably are. Why not?
Well, that's what
say
relationships do, isn't it?
Yeah, of course they do. The reality is that people, this is a new way of communicating, and many people are communicating in this way. They don't just want to read a paper. They don't just want to listen to one man or woman making a speech. They want to listen to a conversation where they can buy into it at some point. Tell us how people get to be part of your blog.
Well, we've got a Facebook group. And it's actually a model of what it's a kind of example of what we're trying to do. There's sort of really interesting discussions that happen. There's over 700 people that subscribe to just the Facebook group, and it's a very lively little community that's grown up. And they often feed back, give us advice, tell us what to do.
And even I think harder than you and I have quite a few commonalities. I mean, we're both evangelical, but in the Facebook group, because you know, you've got people to the right of you and I've got people to the left of me that listen to us. So it's a really diverse group. And
can be difficult, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not always easy. It's not always easy. People have to realise that there are people with very different assumptions coming into the conversation.
And not all Christians. So we've got we've got atheists in the group.
We've got quite a few people who are ex-Christians or people who are...
I wish we could sit and talk all day, but thank you for coming in, and I'm hoping that people will log on and to your Facebook or seek to find, and we'll make sure at Wesley Mission that we give the information available if people want to be able to be part of this ongoing weekly conversation. Michael and Megan, thank you very much indeed for sharing with us.
Thanks,